John.
All right, with me now, former prosecutor Jeremy Saland. Jeremy, let me just pick up with what Evan last reported right there, because with his own eyes, he saw a jury nodding as Abby Lowe, who's the defense lawyer, was cross-examining an FBI agent there. What are your feelings when you see that when you're a prosecutor and a defense lawyer?
I think in the context of what we're hearing and seeing, this is more beneficial to the defense, or at least appears as such, because there's a thing called empathy and compassion, and jurors are not immune from that. And especially a case like this where people can relate to addiction and know people either personally, family members, friends who suffer through this. So there's an emotional component here, which is not in a white collar case, but this is a very personal case.
And just as a former prosecutor, when you look at a juror nodding in agreement maybe with a defense lawyer, I mean, what goes through your mind? I mean, how does that affect you?
I think, uh-oh, I got to figure this out. How do I come back and now raise that issue and get rid of my problem and try to fix it? You know what? I can appreciate your empathy, Ms. Juror, but this is the facts, this is the law, you got to follow it.
All right, on the stand, starting today, you have people that could end up being deeply uncomfortable for Hunter Biden as witnesses. His former wife, the widow of his brother Beau Biden, with whom Hunter also had a relationship. Another romantic partner will also ultimately take the stand, we believe, as well. What does the prosecution want to get from them? Clearly, these people who are loaded, and I'm not using that word pejoratively, but they come with a lot of connections to Hunter Biden. What does the prosecution want from them? Well,
these are people who have, to your point, have a relationship with Hunter Biden, whether they have an axe to grind or they've gotten over that, but there's a compassion and a love here. But they're going to say, nonetheless, this is a man who had a significant and serious drug issue, and how he went on binges and how he had access to drugs, and maybe to discuss some of the money issues as well. So they're going to fortify, meaning the prosecution, with these witnesses. Hunter Biden is an addict, and he knew he was an addict, and they're going to fight that allegation or challenge, whether now or down into summation, that he wasn't an addict on day 3 or day 9 or day 10. He's been an addict, and he's been an abuser of drugs, and we have evidence that all these days he was using it, even if not the day in particular.
So now you're the defense. How much of a challenge is it for defense lawyers to do cross on witnesses like this? How careful do you need to be?
Well, you have to drive home the point that, very simply, at its core, they can't say on that day or the day before or whenever it may be at last time that he was using drugs or how much he was using drugs. They can say he had a habit and he was doing this often and he was on calls and he has these audio recordings and books. So they can all corroborate that he was a drug user. But to the point of Lowell, you know, if I'm in AA, am I always an addict, even if I haven't used in 10 years? You know, if I'm not using at that moment. So all of this just fortifies the prosecution, and it's a heavy lift for the defense, but that's how they're going to poke.
We just got through a trial where the defense, every time they or not every time, but when they cross-examined some key witnesses, they were tough. I mean, they were hard on these witnesses. Can you be tough like that? Do you even want to be?
This is going to be much more different. I think this will be more of a softer approach. And again, you want to play on that empathy, because even if you're not getting what you want in terms of the testimony directly, if you have that one juror who's potentially with you, and likely would have more, she's not going to be an anomaly in all likelihood, you're building that sympathy. You're building, you know what, he had a drug problem. It's not a crime to have an addiction.
So you keep addressing that juror, I would imagine, for the last 4 or 5 days of the
trial. And try to still pull some other jurors in as well, but all you need is one.
All right, Jeremy Saland, great to see you this morning. Thank you very much.